Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to a brand new video. Today I'm filming my March reading wrap up. So I'm a little bit late with this as it's currently the 9th of April that I'm filming, but I've had a cold the last week. As you can probably tell from my voice, it's been a lot worse and I didn't want to film when I sounded so nasally because that would drive me insane if I had to watch it. And I have to edit it, so I really don't want to listen to it. So I'm sorry it's a little bit delayed, but I still wanted to talk through some of the books I read this month. And ironically, I read 15 or 16 books, but only 3 of them were physical. So you can tell it was a very ebook heavy month. This month I kind of was like addicted to my Kindle. I don't know what happened. But yeah, so there's a lot of Kindle reads on here. And I'm excited to talk through them with you. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the bundle of a series together. So 4 books that I read this month with the final 4 books of the Bonds That Tie series by Bree. If you want to see a bit more of my reading experience, you can check out my Kindle Unlimited vlog. I go into a little bit more depth there, especially on the first book. This is a 6-book series following Ollie, who is the central bond within her bond system to, I want to say, 6 other men? 5 men? 6 men? I don't know. All I can remember is the Draven brothers, okay? Because Nox Draven, heaven. Quite the opposite actually, but in my head, heaven. This is kind of like crack in the pages kind of thing, and you just can't stop reading, even though they're a little bit repetitive. If you like Zodiac Academy, I feel like you'll really like this because it's got the same fast-paced, easy-to-read writing style without the ridiculous sadness, because there is a lot of sadness in these stories, but nothing like Zodiac Academy, so you'll be okay. So it starts the book off when Ollie's in a car crash with her family, and all of her family die except for her. She then finds out she has bonds and runs away from them. Then we catch up with her in present day as her bonds find her. She's forced to go and live with them, or live by them, just basically being controlled by them, and she's absolutely hate it. But everything is not as it seems. As the story progresses, you learn a lot more about the situation, what's been going on, and things like that. Now, I can't tell you each book how I feel, which is why I'm doing this as a series roundup kind of thing. I can't remember. I read them so quickly that all the books have jumbled into one. I remember them being very repetitive. Every book kind of started the same and every book ended the same, which was a little bit frustrating by the end. But I did go for an overall 4 stars on all these books. They were very fun. I didn't have a bad time at all. Actually, it's such a good time that I ended up making a bookmark on it for Etsy, so I obviously did have a good time because I only do that with books I love. Unfortunately, I don't remember a lot. I just know that there's a lot of like enemies to lovers, hate to love, or just hate in a lot of ways. It's a slow burn with certain characters while also getting the good, the good stuff, the romance with other characters. Yeah, there was just a lot to love about each guy, and they were all very individual. And obviously, if you're into reverse harem romance, this is one. And the spice is good, but it's got a lot of levels of plot, not just spice, which is nice. It's what I like personally. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that, because unfortunately I don't really remember. It's been it's just been over a month. So I don't remember a lot about it, I'm sorry. But it was good, and I would recommend. Then I read The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. This is the 2nd book within this like Lord world. And I shouldn't have read it. I hated the first one, The Ritual. Why did I think the 2nd one would be any different? I don't know. I won't be reading the 3rd one, which did come out this month. So I guess I'm learning. I don't really want to talk about this book for very long. I don't want to talk about what it's about. It's simply a dark romance with every trigger warning you can physically imagine, talked about in heavy detail on page. So if you have any trigger warnings at all, please head over and check out those trigger warnings on a website or something, because they are severe. I don't enjoy reading about our main character having to go through her traumas over and over again, and the same things happening to her over and over again. I don't like it. It doesn't make it romantic to me. I don't know how anyone finds it romantic, but obviously people do, because this book has great reviews, heavily loved, and that's good. If that's for you, if you're into I like dark romance, but if you're into dark romance, probably the darkest I've ever read, and I love mafia romance, this is for you. It's in a world where lords, they kill a lot of people, they're murderers, they're kind of like a gang, and they get to pick a wife. And all I'm gonna say is, I don't enjoy the lack of feminist in this, okay? It's just a lot, and you do have to read a lot of triggers. So if that's not for you, don't read it. It wasn't for me. I'm not saying that my 2-star rating is saying it's a terrible book. I'm aware that other people are gonna like this book. It was very well written. It's just for me personally, not it. Not it. Like I really struggle to read those things, which is fine. I just won't read any more from them. I should have done it in the first place when I already hated the first book. Next, I read Hex by Jenny Fagan. I picked this up from the library and I was like, oh yeah, it's nice and short, this will be good. I did not expect it to make me cry as much as it did make me cry. This was a 5-star read, 100%. I cannot wait to get my own copy so that I can highlight the hell out of it. This was so sad to even think about. You follow Iris, who is from the present day and has somehow gone back in time to 1591 and is visiting a woman called Galis. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I could be very wrong. And Galis is telling you the story of how she's been captured, tortured, all the terrible things they used to do to women back in the day for being a witch, and telling the story of how obviously women are so wrongly treated and how it must be so nice for Iris in the future. And Iris is telling her about how women are still prosecuted for being women and for the things that men are afraid of from women and all these kind of things, and how we're treated still in this day and age by men. It was such a beautiful story. It was a horrifying read. It was really, really hard to read, but so beautiful and very surreal. Like, I think it was a lot of surrealism as well. Is that the right word? I don't know. But like, a lot of it took a lot of thought process, and especially when I first started the book, I was like, what the hell is going on? What's happening? It's very poetic, a bit confusing, a bit like out of the ordinary, but it was just so beautiful. And some of the quotes, you can go and check out my Goodreads review, I'll link it down below, or just my Goodreads will be linked there always. I put a couple of my favourite quotes in from it, but I could have put thousands. I loved so many quotes from this book. I don't even know what to say. It's just such a heart-wrenching book. If you have any love for feminist literature, or books about the oppression of women, any books that you find like you like, books that are a bit odd, written a bit weirdly, please check this one out. It's so short. It's literally 100 pages and it's a small book, so the pages are really small. You just have to pick it up. If you pick up anything from this video, make it this one. But be aware, it is hard to read. It is not easy, and it's kind of graphic as well in some of the things that happen to Galis, and the end is sad. It's just all very sad, but such a powerful read that like sat with me for so long, and I still think about, and I would have reread straight after if I didn't have other books to read. I can see myself rereading this all the time. Then, looking at my Goodreads, it says I read a book called My Girl and Good Girl by A. Briar. I do not know what those books are. I do not remember them at all. This is good. Let me just check on these little synopses a second. Okay, Good Girl, I have no idea what that is. I don't remember that synopsis at all. I do vaguely remember My Girl. It was about this uncle. No, that's the wrong book. Is it the wrong book? What are these books? I rated one of them 4-star as well. So, My Girl, I apparently rated a 4-star. And it's about Devin and Travis. Devin's dad died and she goes to live with him in the mountains. That would have been why I downloaded it, because it's kind of giving me Credence vibes. That's probably why I downloaded it. I think my 4-star must have been quite generous, because I don't remember this book at all. A challenging winter needs giving credence. That's probably exactly why I liked it. But I don't remember this book at all. I'm sorry, I cannot give you a review. I don't remember it. I don't even remember, like, I kind of remember downloading it from Kindle Limited. I have no memory of reading it. Let me read the other one. Okay, I remember Good Girl. Apparently I've given this 3 stars. I remember it's an uncle and niece romance between Charlie and Becca. I remember they go to I want to say like an aquarium. That's the only thing I remember about that book. But I gave it 3 stars, so it can't have been that bad. This is hilarious. So yeah, great reviews on those ones. They don't have the best average rating, so maybe let's just skirt past those and pretend I didn't read them, shall we? Next, I was sent an arc of Kidnapped by Claws by Raven Hush. I gave this a 3 stars. This was about Josie, who is it Josie? I think so. Josie, who is a reporter and goes to a local, kind of a club, but it's like an underground sex club as well, run by the mafia, to get the scoop on what's really happening there, because it's something to do with wolf shifters who cannot fully shift. Again, I'm not remembering a lot about it. I've given it 3 stars. I must have thought it was okay, but I'm not remembering a hell of a lot. I remember just kind of thinking, oh yeah, that's okay for some people, but I'm not really one to want to read smut that's got like animals in it, like monster smut or anything. Like, I don't want to read about your werewolf claws in my smut personally. So yeah, I didn't love this one, but I don't think it's a bad book at all. I just don't remember it that well. Next, our first physical, and I read The Drift by C.J. Tudor. This was quite a surprise for me. I did give it a 3.5 overall, but I have a specific reason as to why not, because I actually love this story. So we have 3 different POVs. One is you sat around this school and these kids are on a school bus traveling to a place and their bus crashes. I'm trying to remember what's a spoiler and what's not, because obviously I don't have the synopsis on here. So like I have to be careful with what I say. The other one is a stranded cable car which has a group of people in it and they are balancing. It's balancing like on stop in the middle of the air, in the middle of a snowstorm. And then the final one, which was my favourite POV, was this chalet that had a group of people stuck in it. And this is like a world, it's like post-apocalyptic, where there's these inhumane creatures that kind of take over your body, like they host your body. It's like a parasite, and they take over you and you become vicious and evil and vile and whatever. This was so good in the story, so good. I can definitely see myself rereading this. My issue was, and the reason this got a 3.5, although also, by the way, I did guess the end. Like, I guessed the whole twist, which I was so proud of myself for. I'm not saying it's obvious, I don't think it is, but I guessed it. So I'm proud of myself for that one, I'm not gonna lie. The fat phobia in this is revolting. That's the only way to say it. And I wish I'd written down some of the things. I was sending Connor photos of some of it, and he was just as horrified as I was. And you could argue that it was one of the characters' opinions, except for the fact that it was in all 3 stories. Every single story had the most disgusting amount of fat phobia from all different characters. Like, literally just one guy was just sitting, and she was like talking about how his disgusting stomach was hanging out and how it was making her feel sick. And I was like, this man's just existing. This man is just sitting there. Then there was this other one who's talking about how he shouldn't be allowed to have rations of food because it's not like he's eaten enough in his lifetime. And then there was in the cable car, it was like, this one guy's really heavy. We should get rid of him to lighten the weight. No, honestly, I cannot tell you how bad it was. Like, they were talking about fat people literally making them feel sick. And I don't know where that's come from. But obviously, I'm not exactly a skinny person myself. So to read such hatred towards fat people was horrifying. Like, it kept taking me out of a book I was really, really loving. And I don't understand why things like that were coming up. Like, this one guy on the bus was just living his own life. He was just trying to live, laugh, love. And this woman's just like, ew, you're disgusting. Ew, your stomach. Ew, this, ew, that. And I'm like, oh, let the boy just live. And then at one point, he starts to eat like everybody else on the thing. And she's like focusing on the fact he's eating and how he shouldn't be eating. And I'm like, oh, fat people need to eat. I'm sorry, fat people need to eat. Just like every other human being on the planet. Okay, we need to eat. And I'm sorry, I couldn't do it. So that was why I got a 3.5. I would love for someone who's read this book to let me know if they picked up on it as much as I did, because I couldn't believe it. Like, it was really jarring. And yeah, I should have really put some tabs in so I could quote it to you, but I haven't been filming wrap-ups recently, so I didn't think of doing it. But yeah, it was constant. It wasn't just a couple of occasions, it was constant throughout this book, and I was shocked. But I really, really enjoyed this story. I think it's one of C.J. Tudor's best. I really like the other people, but I think this is even better in its own way. Like, I really enjoyed this story. So yeah, if you have a chance to pick this up, I definitely would, but be cautious of the fat phobia because it is very prominent. Next we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And I read this for a read along and I ended up giving the book 3.5, again, just like The Drift. I really enjoyed this romance. It is very reminiscent of The Deal by Elle Kennedy, so if you like that book like I did, or that series in general, you will really like this, I'm sure. It was just exactly the same with the friendships and the hockey players. And yeah, we follow Anastasia, who is a ballerina. No, and what do you call these people? It doesn't say what she's called. An ice dancer. What are they called? An ice gymnast? I don't know. I can't remember what they're called. And then you've Anastasia's skating partner. I don't know. And then we follow Nate, who's also a hockey player. So obviously they share the ring after something goes wrong. And so they're mad at each other, but then he's always trying to like get her back or gain her friendship because they don't really know each other. And yeah, the romance is very cute. I really enjoyed all the friendships, and the side characters are really well developed, which I really like, and I think they're all going to get their own spin-off stories, which again, I'm really happy about because I really enjoyed it. And the only thing that I got annoyed with is Anastasia has this friend called Aaron, and she kept blaming Nate for things and being like, you need to just trust me, I know what I'm doing, I can deal with my own friends, when Aaron treats her bad. And then evidently could not, and was blaming Nate for things when clearly Aaron was at fault and she shouldn't have been so stupid. I mean, she was being so dumb and naive. And then Nate was apologising to her and she was like, I'm glad he could apologise to me. And I'm sat there like, you should be apologising to him, not the other way around, I assure you. And it just took me out of the story because then I didn't want them together. By the end then I was like, I think he should have made a run for the hills. But overall, the romance is really, really cute, and I liked how it seemed to go on for ages, but in a good way. Like, I read it mostly in one sitting, and I did really, really enjoy that. So when I say it went on for ages, I meant that in a good way. It also has a playlist. I know a lot of people like that. It has a playlist of songs. So, for anyone who likes those kind of things. Nice to note. Next, I read Your Darling Death by Lauren Carter. This was an ARC. Thank you so much, Lauren. This comes out this month, April, so you need to be ready to buy it because, trust me, this is amazing. I do know the author. She is one of my best friends. So I could be considered biased, but I tell you, Lauren is so talented. This was a 5-star read, and everything that Lauren writes is so unique. So let me talk you through it. You are dead. You, the reader, are the main character, and you are dead. Fun. I know, I'm already gotten you intrigued. This is a horror, by the way. A horror novella. And your wife, Lilith, is at your funeral and talking to you, kind of through a letter. I want to say, is it through a letter? I think so. And she's talking about your family members who've come to attend the funeral and all the drama that goes down at the funeral. This is horror, and I was just so invested. The family law was coming into play, and I was like, oh, I'm invested. Then the horror part started, and I kind of just so forgotten what I was reading that it was horror that it took me by such a surprise when things started happening. I was like, whoa, what's happening here? I had the best time. The ending was fabulous. The writing is fabulous. I was so intrigued by the fact that I was dead, and I was like, oh yeah, funeral. I was having a whale of a time. So if there's any book that you pick up, it should be this one. I will be linking it down below. Go and pre-order it. I have the book. I've read the book, but I'm also pre-ordering it because I can. I will be convincing everybody I know to buy it and read it. So if you haven't, you need to. Also, the author's note at the end said something about me not like there was an Easter egg in the book, so now I have to read it over and over again until I find out what it is. So if I never succeed, I'm going to beg Lauren to tell me. Next, I read Gothicana by RuNyx, and this is like a Dracula kind of retelling-ish, in a way. We follow Corvina, who moves to... She loses her mother, unfortunately, and then gets an admission letter to this school that's like a big Gothic mansion up on the mountains and the hills, where there's a lot of deaths happening and a lot of, like, they say it's haunted and things keep happening and it's got a lot of bad luck. And so she goes. It's described as a secluded castle on top of a mountain riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. I mean, that sounds like my kind of thing, There's a man called Vad Deverell who, Vad. You can see the Dracula coming into play, can't you? He is a teacher at the school, and it's a student-teacher relationship. However, Corvina is 23 or 22, I want to say. So it's not weird, really, other than the fact student-teacher relationships are frowned upon. So I guess it is taboo. They do have to keep the relationship a secret, but if you're worried about it being like weird because of the age, it's not. I'm not really into student-teacher relationships, so it didn't really do much for me in that regards, but I really enjoyed the gothicness and the like horror-y vibes of this story. It was like a dark fantasy with a lot of like death and deceit and secrets, as it just said. Literally, it wasn't lying. Secrets, deceit, and death. That is exactly what it is. And it was so good, and the twists shocked me. Like, I was so surprised. I love the side characters. I just felt there was a lot of twists in this. For me, the romance was just like, oh, okay. I mean, fine. It is smutty, it is steamy. But yeah, I could have done without the romance. It was more just the characters and the like actual place. It was very, very good, and I'm very, very intrigued. I gave it 4 stars overall. I think this is the shortest wrap-up of my life, because I only have 1 book left, and it is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Garmus, sorry. Jade brought me this after Jade read it and was like, oh yeah, Brooke would love this, and I did, and I went a little bit overboard with the highlighting. I was so surprised by this, because this is one of those books that's absolutely everywhere, kind of like, oh my god, what's that book? See, I'm going to tell you which one it is. I forgot what it's called, but it's the one where the girl goes on trial for a murder and she lives in like a swamp or something. It begins with a C, I think. Kind of like that. Everybody knows what it is. Everybody's read it. It's on every table. I don't pick up those books. I do not like, you know, when it says like global #1 bestseller and stuff like that. That puts me off reading a book. I don't want to read it. I just never seem to like these widely available books. Like Crawdads Sing, where the Crawdads Sing, that's the one. I don't like books like those. I never have. I never have any luck with them. So no matter how many times I'd seen this book, I had no idea what it was about. I never had any intention of reading it. So when Jade gave it to me, I was like, trust me, you're going to need to read it. I was like, okay, I trust you. This is, yeah, what do I even say about this book? We follow Elizabeth Zott in the 1960s as she is a scientist and is obviously frowned upon a lot because she is a female scientist. You know, people don't take her seriously. They mistake her for a receptionist because that's all women are good for. Blah, 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 like all about how she's just meant to be a mother and kind of clean the house and that's it. Which is very angering. It also talks about her experiences of not being able to get her master's or her PhD or something because of the fact that her teachers didn't take her seriously and then, you know, inappropriately touched her and then how the police don't believe her. That's all within the first like couple of chapters, like the first like 20 pages. Honestly, so many things are angering about this book. Like I was absolutely seething reading it. I was absolutely seething. Like I was laughing with anger sometimes. And Jade was like, oh, I know. And I really, really loved it. I'm trying to remember what it was I said to Jade about it. I loved the characters. I thought it was such an in-depth look at the characters in this book. You kind of just go through Elizabeth Zott's life, and then I haven't even told you what the whole thing is about. From becoming a scientist, she then becomes a TV show host doing a cooking show, but it's not really cooking because it's more science cooking. Like she talks to women of cooking about the science behind each cooking and kind of educates women and gives them beliefs. I gave this 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, but I have a lot of like thing about it. Like number one, I don't like how it ended, and I can't tell you anything about it other than the fact it didn't feel very feminist. It kind of felt like the whole thing felt like she was proving people correct. Like the whole of society. I know this one woman can't beat society. I get it, but it did feel a little bit like she fell into society's expectations of her, you know? And I really like the characters. I really like learning more about it. I really like learning more about her child. All very much well done and in depth, but the storyline to me was kind of lacking. Like the plot felt like it was just going. There was no moments of, oh, shock, oh, wow. It was a very plain, bland storyline. But I suppose that wasn't the focus of the book anyway. It felt more like a character study, which I really enjoyed. But that's why it didn't get 5 stars from me, was because the plot at times was like, okay, we need to pick up the pace a little bit. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this story. I do recommend it. It is a very good feminist novel. Yeah, I just had my problems with it, and I wish I could remember them all. So that was my March wrap up. I'm sorry it wasn't very good. I can tell listening to what I'm saying about these books that I have no idea what's going on. But I really wanted to talk to you through the books I've read this month and just tell you what was happening, what was going on. And yes, hopefully you'll find a book you want to read out of the, oh, well, this looks like a petty stack, but you know, the 15 books I talked about. And I shall see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.